This video is for entertainment purposes only. My way of doing things may not be the right way. Hello everyone, we have a warm, muggy day today, and today what I guess I'm going to try to accomplish is changing out the antifreeze in my 2007 Honda VTX 1300r. This is the last fluid I have to change. So far I've changed the oil, the rear drive oil, the fork fluid, and the brake fluid. If you're interested in any of those other videos, just look on my YouTube channel and you'll be able to find those. I did get my backrest in, so I have that installed. So let's get the show on the road here. We're going to start out by removing the back seat, and we just have one bolt there, which takes a 5mm Allen wrench. And so we'll get that coming off. And there is a washer underneath the bolt, so be careful you don't lose that. What I like to do is put a piece of cardboard down, and then everything I take off I set on the cardboard alongside the part that I took off. That way you don't lose anything and it's easy to figure out what bolts came from where. We have two more bolts holding the back seat on, one right here and then one on the other side, the back side here. And that is a 6mm Allen wrench. So we will take that one off. And there's a little spacer there that you can see, so don't lose that. And we have the second bolt on the other side here. I'll just take that off. And we have another spacer, so we can't lose that. And then we just pick up on the seat and lift it out of the way. The strap here will also fall off, so grab a hold of that. So now we have the passenger seat off. Time to take the driver's seat off, and that's held on by two bolts. One is right here, and then the other one is on the other side. So I'll take my 12mm socket. Seems like a lot of the work that you have to do in this bike, you always have to take the seat off. A lot of the stuff you do is underneath the seat or has to deal with the seat somehow. And the other bolt we've got is hiding right underneath here. 12mm socket. Both bolts have a washer on it. Then you simply pull your seat back a little bit and lift up on it, pull it out. And I usually set mine on cardboard so I don't damage the edges here on the cement. And now we have one bolt holding the tank on right here, and that is a 12mm socket. The other thing that we have to do when we take the tank off is we have to unhook the fuel line, and I believe there's a vacuum line going to the petcock. We'll pull the tank back a little bit, and then we have to unhook the wiring harness going up to the instrument cluster. So with the bolt off, I'm going to wiggle the tank and pull it back a little bit. As I'm pulling it up, I'll get in the back side here so I'm not standing in front of you. You can see it's coming back a little bit, and that is going to expose the wiring harness for the instrument cluster. Let me bring it back a little bit more and point it up a little bit. And now we've got a little bit more room to get to the plugs here. We'll just pull down this protective boot. And we can see we have two connectors here. If we notice, we got blue wires here, blue and gray, black. And so the colors of the wires here correspond to each end of the connector. So I can pull these apart and I don't have to worry about putting the right one in the right spot because I just matched the colors up. And as we get close to the connector, we see there's a little locking tang here, and I got to take my little super small screwdriver. And I'm going to work that in there and gently pry that up. That should allow me to pull the connector apart, just like so. Kind of nice if you don't break those, because they will keep the wire from pulling apart. We look at the second connector here, and that has basically the same thing. So get yourself a really small screwdriver. Okay, we have the instrument cluster wires disconnected. So out of the rear tank we got a vent line coming out, and it's coming through here, going through the frame and underneath the seat. And if I move you down a little bit here, if I pull the hose up, we have a connection right here. I'm going to take this apart right here at the connection, pull the hose back this way, and I'm going to plug it with a screwdriver, just in case there's some gas that wants to come out when I start moving the tank around. So let me hop over to the other side here and disconnect this hose here, like so. I'll run it back underneath. And we have it here, and then I'll just get a small Phillips screwdriver and plug this end. And now I've got the handy cam out. We're looking at the petcock, and there is a vacuum hose that goes to the back of the petcock. What that does is if the motor shuts off, it stops the gas flow. And then on this side of the petcock we have the fuel line, which is right here. Has a little clip on it that you got to take off. That's also the time where you want to get rags out, because there's going to be a little gas that spills out of the gas line. The tank is actually a lot fuller than I'd hoped it would be. I'd hoped I could get out and do a little more riding, but that did not happen. I'm going to get my gloves on. I hate the smell of gas when I get it on my hands. Seems like it lasts forever. So I'm just going to come back here and pull this vacuum hose off. So I have that off right here. Let's see. Well, I don't know how well you can see it. You just have to trust me. The vacuum line is off. Now it's time to pull the fuel line off. And I got my rags there just in case I got to catch a little fuel. I also have an old garbage can here, just in case things would get out of hand. This clip that was holding the fuel line on was not real tight. I was able to take it off with my hands, and I really do not like that. So I'll have to see what else I can come up with. I'm going to have to run and grab a screwdriver. So I have my combination screwdriver pry bar here, and I'm just going to pry the fuel line off. And we can see it starting to drip a little bit. And I realize you aren't going to be able to see this, but yeah, try not to scratch everything up. There we go. She's running off right all over the place. Get my rag there. And we'll finish. There, that wasn't too bad. So now I'm just going to simply pull the tank up and off. I'm going to grab it by the front, grab it by the back. And there we have it. I'm going to go set it on my cardboard. And the reason why we had to take all that stuff off was to get to the radiator cap right here. So that's where we're going to fill it when we refill the system. The other thing I noticed too is this vacuum hose is unhooked. Now I could have done that when I pulled the tank, and that is probably the case, but I'm just going to plug her right back in. Now I'm going to take this side cover off by taking these bolts off right here, and that is a 5mm Allen wrench. So now after taking 5 bolts out, I can just pull the cover right off. All the bolts are the same length, so we don't have to worry about that. Now we can really get a good look at this different stuff in here. So we're back in the handy cam here, and I'm kind of out a little bit so you can get an idea of where I'm at. We're gonna start coming in here, and this bolt right here is actually the drain plug. There should be a sealing washer on it, and what we're going to do is take that out using a 10mm socket, and then loosen the radiator cap so air can enter the system and the antifreeze can drain. Then we have the overflow right here, and I'll take the hose off the bottom of that and drain that out too. So let me get you back up on the stand. And I'm going to kind of leave you a little distance away. I don't want to wash the camera down. Let's see here. Let's get in here. Okay, so I have the bolt cracked. I'm going to loosen up the radiator cap. I guess technically you'd call it a plug. And let me see. Yeah, you can see it. I'm not going to open it up any further than that. I'm just going to let it drain to avoid making a mess. It actually, well, we'll see once we get it drained out to see what kind of condition it's in. So while it was draining, I went and found a worm drive hose clamp. I like these better than the one that was on it. That one that was on it was kind of loose. And I know these videos can get kind of boring, so I went and got a piston from Big Daddy Don Garlett's racing car. This was actually in one of his motors there. You can kind of see a little wear in the skirts there. So I hope that breaks up the monotony a little bit. Now we can see on the drain plug, which really kind of looks like a bolt to me, we have a sealing washer on that. So we have to make sure that gets back on there. Actually, it should be replaced, but I don't have one, so I'm just going to reuse it. Then I'll watch for a drip. If it leaks, then I'll have to get one. Now we got you back on the handy cam. This is the overflow tank right here. We can see the hose going in, the hose clamp down there. I'm going to take the clamp out and then drain. See if I can get it to focus. There we go. I'm going to drain the overflow tank. And now I let the bike back down to tilt the bike, and I'm draining the overflow tank right now. I'm also going to get a worm drive clamp for that too. I got the overflow hose back on, and now I am going to torque the drain plug. This is a good time to look at the radiator hoses, the rest of the radiator hoses, look at the gas lines, vacuum lines, and just kind of give it a good going over. See if you can find anything that might be going wrong. And now we're going to get down to some serious business here. I'm going to take another small screwdriver and plug this vacuum line because I'm going to run it on an external fuel tank. So we'll take my cap off here and get the antifreeze. And I'm going to throw in the Honda antifreeze. This is already 50-50 pre-mixed. So we will start adding that. And now I'm going to dump the antifreeze in. And I'm not going to use a funnel because you remember what funnels are for? That's right, crybabies. Okay, let's see how accurate I can be. And looking at this coolant here, This coolant is blue. The coolant I took out is green. So that means the old coolant was the original coolant that was in it, I would guess. And we're not going to bet this time whether I spill it or not, because last time you didn't pay me, so. I have the external gas tank hooked up now, and the procedure is going to be to start the bike up, run it for 2 to 3 minutes, and then blip the throttle 3 to 4 times, shut it down, and then check the level of the antifreeze. So let's go ahead and do that. And I can see by the antifreeze circulating there that we are moving antifreeze through the engine. That is procedure is made to bleed any air you have in the system out. Now I will top it off with to the top of the filler neck. So now I want to fill the overflow reservoir, and I think probably the simplest way to do that is to take this hose off right here. I'm going to use my antifreeze tester, suck antifreeze up from the antifreeze jug, and then squirt it into that hose, and hopefully it'll end up in the overflow tank. So although that was a really good thought, this hose, the opening is too small, but this syringe here should work very, very nicely. That actually worked excellent. I did not spill a drop. And I replaced one of the clamps with a little spring clamp here. The clamp that was on it was kind of junk. Now what I'll do is start this thing up, and I'm going to run all the gas out of the external fuel line that's coming in here. Now we'll get all the rags that I've used throughout the job. I save them just for things like this. And hopefully we won't have too much fuel coming out. Yeah, that wasn't bad at all. I'm going to start putting the cover on. See if I can get it lined up here. Here we go. And I got blue Loctite on the bolts. Trying to stay out of the way there. Now this cover, although it looks like it's steel, is just plastic. So, tighten it wisely. Normally I'd torque it, but I can't find the torque specs right off hand. Say that 10 times fast. And now we'll give it one final tighten. We'll call that good. And we got the handy cam back out. When we put the tank back on, the front tank rests in between these two rubber grommets here, or bushings, or whatever you want to call them. And then the rear tank bolts up right here. So when we set the tank down, we're going to set it down on those rubber bushings there. And then it will be finally bolted down to here. But we got to remember to hook our vacuum or vent line up. I double check my vacuum line, make sure that's on there. Yeah, now I'll bring the tank over and get that partially set on. I got to go over and hook my console wires on and get my vent tube run. And then I can drop the tank down into its permanent resting spot. And I have the tank just kind of sitting there. So So I'll take my screwdriver out here. We'll run the vent tube back through the frame. I hope. And remember, this isn't a race. We'll hook the vent line back up, shove it back down to where it was. Make sure we are sitting pretty good right there. Okay, now let's put the electrical connectors together. And we got to remember to get the wire colors back and to the same. The other thing you could do is take a marker, magic marker, and put a mark on them. That probably wouldn't be a bad thing. That way if you take them apart in the future, you'll be in good shape. Then turn them around, make sure we're locked into the little lever sticking in there. And that looks good, that looks good. What I'm going to do next time I take the tank off is I'm going to put a little dielectric grease in these connectors there to kind of help waterproof them a little bit. Now I can set the tank back on. Yeah, and I'm just going to come over and grab the tank, set it down. You'll feel it go into the little rubber bushings. Before I get too carried away, I'm going to go to the other side and make sure I'm not pinching my wiring harness there. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So let's see if we can get it to cooperate. Go check and see how we're doing here. Nope, I'm going to take it back off. There's the wires don't look quite like I want them to. They're not sitting in the spot I want them to sit in. I'm not going to be able to show you this because it's way up inside here, but where you disconnected your wires, there is a little kind of a clip up there that will hold those wires up and off the motor. So once you get your tank shoved up far enough, go ahead and clamp them wires down. And we can go ahead and bolt our tank back down then. And have to wiggle a little bit to start the bolt. Get your 12mm socket and go ahead and tighten it down. And time for the torque wrench. And we'll go ahead and reinstall our fuel line using my new clamp. They aren't the prettiest things to look at, but you get a real nice seal on the hoses. Okay, now let's get that vacuum hose hooked back up. How do you like that? I can't even see it. It's on the other side, but I can feel it. Okay, so now we got the vacuum line and we got the fuel line hooked up. If you're ever driving down the road and your bike quits and it feels like it's out of gas, this vacuum line here, if it's broken or has come off, will stop the fuel from flowing out of your petcock to your motor. So that's a real quick, easy check. And now we'll get the seat ready to put back on. So slide it up there. Should be lined up with our bolt holes there. And we'll see if we can get the bolt started on this side here. Might need to wiggle the seat around a little bit. There we go. You can hand start your bolts, that's always the best. That way you know you're not going to cross thread it. And we'll go to the other side. And now we're on the other side here. We'll get this bolt started. See if we can't get her starting the thread started by hand. I'd have to wiggle the seat around a little bit. Eventually it'll grab. Once you get it started, run it up by hand and get the torque wrench out. And we'll do the same thing to the other side. Okay. Yeah, now it's time for the passenger seat. So we'll just put that up there. And we got the spacer there. The spacer has to go into the strap there. And I'll see if I can't get this one started. There we go. We'll go to the other side. And I'll get the spacer going through the strap there. And then we'll just line it up. Like I say, we'll just line it up. All right. There we go. Patience. You got to be a little patient. Now, last but not least, we will put the back bolt in. And don't forget your washer. We'll get that started. Okay. And we'll start torquing them down. Head over to the other side. And we'll tighten down the back bolt here. And that should just about complete our antifreeze change. I suppose I could have probably got some water and flushed it out a little bit, but I think it's going to be fine with just the new antifreeze in it. If I had to rate this job as far as skill level goes, I would say between easy and medium, maybe a little bit towards the medium side. When I bought the bike, it did have 5,600 miles on it, and it looks like it did have the original antifreeze in it. So that pretty well completes all the fluid changes. I'm going to go and log this in the book, so I have a record of it. It is very humid. You know what? I don't know how you people that live down south do it. I have a lot of respect for you. The humidity feels like it's about 100%, and it is just hot. So, like I say, you Southerners, a lot of respect. So what's next on the agenda? Well, let's see here. We just happen to have got in a Honda clutch cable. Now, normally you probably really wouldn't need to replace the clutch cable at 5,600 miles, but you got to remember this is a 2007 and a clutch cable is 16 bucks. So, you know, why not? It's cheap, and hopefully it will be trouble-free as long as I own it then. So if you think that's gonna interest you, stay tuned, and I'll be putting that on. Here again, we have one long video. I don't probably bet anybody will sit and watch through it, but some people like the hairy details, and so I'm gonna put everything on. And if it's not anything you're interested in, just skip through it. Or maybe the whole video doesn't really interest you, so just skip the whole video if you want to. But you gotta admit, I did show you a piston from Big Daddy Don Garlett's race car. He was one of my drag racing heroes back when I was a lot younger. And now for the next couple weeks, I'll keep an eye on the garage floor for any drips of any fluids that I changed that may be leaking on me, but I think everything should be good. So keep both tires on the pavement, and hope you have some good, safe riding.